Peace to the room. Sorry for the hold up. And welcome to my space. I'm just Eve. And today, um, I guess I just wanted to talk a little bit about being outside. The Virginia Reparations Compliance Committee met yesterday, September 30th, on the beautiful campus of Norfolk State University here in Virginia. And we passed out flyers. And I think that sometimes people might think that there's acts that are too big or too small for whoever is involved, and I say shame on you. I think that everybody has a role in our fight, and flyers, passing out flyers and disseminating information to people who don't have it is a good way to start. Our mission. Our mission is to ensure the efficacy and integrity of reparations in the state of Virginia to Black Americans who are the descendants of those who were held in U.S. chattel slavery through the following actions. Ensuring that any legislative efforts towards reparations allocated to Black Americans in the state of Virginia are lineage-based and include, but are not limited to, direct cash payments. Informing the general public as well as elected and non-elected representatives and officials within but not limited to the state of Virginia on the subject of reparations to Black Americans. Ensuring that reparations in the state of Virginia are not misappropriated to nonprofit or for-profit entities, not including any additional lineage-based grant funding allocated to entities owned solely by Black Americans. And finally, ensuring that government and non-government regulated task force, commissions, or other bodies created to study, legislate, or otherwise affect reparations for Black Americans in the state of Virginia are comprised of only people who are qualified for lineage-based reparations. And that's on our flyer. That's on the information that we passed out yesterday. And for what it's worth, I think that we absolutely did that. We did everything that our mission says that we're supposed to be doing. From the first thing, making sure that people understand and are aware that reparations are lineage based and are not limited to, but definitely include and should start with cash payments. That's the big thing, right? Everybody, I want to say that most Black people that I've ever approached about the situation of reparations, they all say, yeah, I'm owed. Yeah, Black people are owed. They'll have that sort of attitude about it. But then when you start getting into the meat and potatoes of it all, you start getting some pushback because some people aren't even owed. They're just people who look like us that are existing in our area, and that can be problematic. But let's just put those people to the side for the moment and just talk about people who are owed reparations who do start to talk funny. I think those people definitely get some leeway because they experienced, or at least their family has the shared experience. But their trauma is not allowing them to see what it is, that they are owed a debt for what they've had to endure. But sometimes they say, well, we weren't slaves, so why should we get reparations? I've actually heard that a number of times from Black people who are owed. And it confuses me because these people are not in the best financial situations. They're not the most economically advantaged people, but still they say that since they weren't actually people who were enslaved, they don't understand why the debt is owed to people like us, people who are not enslaved. And I don't know if they're confused or what, but sometimes, you take the time to talk to them and you understand that they've been around the wrong people for a lot of time in their lives. So they're just very ignorant of what is going on. You peel back that layer and they realize that absolutely they would actually be better off if their family had been paid the debt that was owed all them years ago. And what a time now. What a time now to go ahead and get that debt paid. So then the question starts asking, well, what can we do to make that happen? Well, one thing you can do is you can go outside. And what do I mean by that? Well, I mean you can take the message off the internet and take it to real people, people that you can actually reach out and touch. I don't know if you want to be reaching out and touching everybody, but just people in your in your square, people in your neighborhood, people in your community? Do they know about what it is that you've been stomping for online? Or is this just a fight that you've been having on the internet? Because it's easy to fight on the internet. And as soon as it comes down to real life, you don't want to say anything. So you don't want to go outside. I'm sorry to tell you, but Black Americans are outside until further notice. You have to be. Because if you're not, well, you can get got inside your home. That's actually happened a number of times. So if we actually don't have a safe space, then everywhere needs to be ours, outside, inside, and the fight needs to be the same outside and inside. What you're doing inside the house should reflect what you're doing outside the house, and vice versa. If you're having these conversations online with people very comfortably, then when you go out into the community, you should be having those same conversations. And that's what we did yesterday. We had conversations. We actually talked to people who were not from Virginia. That was actually the beautiful thing about going on campus and passing out flyers, because there was a game going on. So it was a game between North Carolina A&T versus Norfolk State. And apparently both football teams are trash, because that was the whole thing. You know your team is sorry if my team beats you. And I've never heard smack talk like that before, but it was fun to listen to the elders talk about their respective teams. But we did get to talk to people who are not from Virginia. And that is one of the points in the mission, ensuring that reparations in the state of Virginia, I'm sorry, that is the second bullet, but ensuring that reparations is discussed basically across all of the United States, not just Virginia, and talking to people who were not in Virginia. Um, oh, yes, the second bullet point, informing the general public on the subject of reparations to Black Americans. People were saying, well, I'm not from Virginia. We would give them a flyer. They would see on the front of the flyer, Virginia Reparations Compliance Committee. And then they would say, oh, I'm not from Virginia. But I'm sorry, brother man. Aren't you a Black man living in America? Don't you understand that when one state does something, other states are likely to catch on and do similar things? And then they either say, oh, I didn't even think about it like that, or they have thought about it like that and they just don't want no problems, because that is a very real problem in our community. We've got olders, that would be old people who want to be elders, who have not the portfolio to be called an elder. They're called olders. And we've got olders in our community who don't want to put in the work. They don't want to be reminded that there is work to be done. They actually just want to kind of chill. And, if you've got your degree, you've got your little fancy, nice car, fancy, nice house, your children aren't, um, in a bad spot, you might feel like you've made it. So why should you have to fight so hard to get something that you don't even understand is owed? And I say shame on you, Black people who feel like you're in a good spot. What is that? I'm sorry, to the room. Do y'all know what that is? What's a good spot? Like, can you get to a point where all of us are in a good spot without us have getting what's owed to us? Because to me, it just sounds like, the Michael Jordan or the Oprah aspect where, there's one. So if there's one, then the rest of y'all can do it. And I'm not saying that that's not true either, because I do think it's true. If there's one, then there's definitely more than one. But they're not going to put everybody on. They actually don't put everybody on. They actually make it so that there is only one. And then it's very hard for anybody else to get into it. So there is that. But speaking to these elders from North Carolina, and letting them know, hey, by the way, if Virginia starts reparations conversations, North Carolina being right next door, I mean, that math seems pretty simple. If the whole country can follow California, which is all the way over there, Virginia and North Carolina following suit seems more likely. Once you give them that part of the argument or that part of the conversation, then they start saying, oh, well, yeah, that's right, that's right. I liked talking with the elders yesterday, but I think I found more value talking with the youth, There was one student on campus who she did not look the part. You know, we're always told that people have to look the right way. And then, you know, that's the person that's going to be on code, or that's the person who's going to be with the right message. And man, if this chick was not the right look, she had blue, short cut pixie hair and piercings and tattoos and just all sorts of whatever you want to call that look. But when given the information, she was very much like, amen. Like, amen to that. Like, where have y'all been? I'm on this Black campus and I actually haven't heard people talking like this. What's going on? And I found her interest and her excitement to be pretty good fuel for the day. It was raining yesterday. I didn't want to be outside in the rain, but for what it's worth, it wasn't even raining that hard. I felt like if we were going to be outside in the rain, this was the rain to do it. Have y'all had that feeling before? Like, you don't really want to do it, but the odds aren't that bad. I mean, they kind of suck, but they're just not totally sucky. So it's like we can kind of make something out of this. And then we did. We hit so many different places on campus. We were able to speak to so many different people, and when I say so many different people, I really mean different people, just across the spectrum people. It was fun to pass out flyers to Black people around white people, because the white people were like, well, where's my flyer? It's like, well, this message is not for you, brother man. You know, so maybe you can step to the side and let us handle these conversations the way we see fit. And I thought that that was great. I think anytime that we get a chance, an opportunity to exclude them, we should take full advantage of it. They do it to us, and what a time to do it for them. It's also a good time to start, you know, seeing how some people feel, because you put them around some white people and they will be very honest about what things are. And you might not have gotten the same honesty from them if, you know, the man wasn't present for the conversation. So there is that. What else do I want to talk about? The Virginia Reparations Compliance Committee. If your state does not have a reparations compliance committee, shame on you, because we've been talking about reparations at least for the past decade, and maybe we've been talking about reparations in the mainstream conscious community like this in the past 5 years. So in 5 years, every state should have a reparations compliance committee. And that does not mean that you have a legislative body already together, like a task force, doing anything. No, it means that the people in your state have come together. Somebody in your state said, look, we are owed reparations. How can we help move the conversation forward? Because that's all it takes. Sometimes it just takes the people who know that something needs to be done to stop sitting on their ass and waiting for somebody else to do it. Y'all have to get off of this bystander mentality. I don't know when you picked it up, but leave that shit alone. If you see something bad happening, you have to be the one. I think that if you saw a car accident and maybe you saw that 5 other people saw the accident, you would say, all right, well, somebody else is going to call, or maybe the people involved in the accident are going to call, and I don't have to be the one to call. And okay, that's your right. But if you were in the accident and you were unable to call, would you want someone to call for help for you? That's a very real question. I would love somebody to come up and answer that question. If you were in an accident and you were unable to call for help, would you want someone to call for help? Or would you want them to not do anything? Is it cool that you have bystanders and not people who are going to do anything about what they see? Well, I will take that resounding silence to mean that everybody absolutely knows that they would want someone to call for help if they were unable to call for help. Because, I mean, really, like, that's what you would do. You would. I'm sorry, you don't want to just be pinned up under another car. What if your car is about to catch on fire? I don't think anybody on the planet would see people witnessing something tragic like that and would be okay with nobody trying to assist. And since that's the case, that means that you would need to do something if you saw something. But I know our people, we've got a whole hate relationship with them people. You don't even actually really want to call them people for anything because every time we call them people, something bad happens. They come to the scene of a tragedy and they take it out on us. And we're the ones having the tragedy. I get that. I 1 billion% get that. So maybe we start calling these non emergent lines. Maybe we can call the fire department directly instead of calling the cops. I'm not sure. I think that that might be a move though. If you've got, yeah, I think that maybe instead of calling the cops, you could call the fire department. I don't know. Maybe if somebody has another method of getting help from professional personnel, you can let me know in the comments or you can ask for Mike. But right now, I guess that's what I'm going with. So, in the event of an emergency, call somebody who can help. Or maybe you're the person who goes and helps. That's cool too. I think that a person who knows how to do CPR is expected to do CPR on people who are having an emergency. I think that that's the whole understanding. But I don't know. I think maybe we're selfish people too. So just because you know how to do it doesn't mean everybody gets to be safe. I don't know. Shout out to the room. Today I'm talking about being outside. And yesterday, the Virginia Reparations Compliance Committee met and we were outside. We passed out flyers. We told people our mission. We let people know about reparations. We had uncomfortable conversations with some people. We had some great conversations with some people. We got kicked off campus. That was fun. Everything was cool up until Katie started playing clips of everybody's favorite vice. I don't want to call her a vice president, but everybody's favorite Jamaican Indian saying that she's not going to do anything specific for black people. Literally, as soon as she starts playing that clip, is when police officers kind of came out of nowhere and told us we had to take our party on the road. Um, DJ, I see you in the audience. If you want to come up and speak about your experience yesterday, you are welcome to do that. But I'm just, kind of monologuing a little bit, letting the family know about our experience yesterday in the rain, because it definitely rained for much of the time we were out there. And it wasn't like super cold or anything. We didn't need an umbrella, but it was, it was raining and there weren't a lot of people outside in the beginning. So consistency was necessary yesterday. If we had just left because we didn't see anybody, then we wouldn't have been able to have those conversations. You agree, DJ?
Yes, I absolutely agree. Shout out to the room. Just wanted to speak on my experience. It was very, very positive, very awakening. Sister Eve is a force. It was such a pleasure and a blessing meeting with her and stomping with her. So, yeah, so I really enjoyed myself and I really appreciate to share that experience with you guys.
Which conversation do you think was the most impactful? To me, it was the chick with the blue hair. Do you remember her when we were in the dorms?
I don't specifically remember her, but the guy that was at the front desk, whatever you call it, welcome, whatever.
Yes, Kareem
I
at the
thought that was
welcome desk.
yes, yes,
Yes.
yes, yes. I thought that was very powerful, very,
It
very
was.
powerful.
Peace, Katie. I see you in the room. Look, I wanted to monologue a little bit about our experience yesterday. I would love for you to come up and share if you'd like, but you don't have to. It's all good. Whatever you want to do. But to the room, what DJ's talking about, we met a student who I want to say he was like 20 or 21. Did he say how old he was? Do you remember?
I don't.
He's definitely not older than 21. Had to, I mean, he was young. And he talked to us about how he's the one in his family doing the ancestry. And, you find that a lot. Um, It skipped a generation. Some of our peers don't give a shit about their story, but their kids do. And their children are talking to the elders in their family, and they're finding out things that they should have been told by you, the parent, but they're not being told by you because you don't know the story. So I was very impressed by that young man yesterday and his willingness to do the research. Because again, if it's not told to you directly, you might not even care about what the story is. I think Katie talked to him at length yesterday, and it was a nice experience, a nice exchange to see that it is actually happening offline. People are doing work, and it has zero to do with Twitter and everything to do with just wanting to know more about who we are. Because what a time, right? What a time to not know where you belong, but you've got all these other people coming here and staking claim. So people who are not from here know what's yours, but you're from here and you don't know what's yours. That's by design. That's why we have to be outside until further notice. If you don't know the story, or if you're not comfortable with our story, then you need to get comfortable with it. Like I said earlier in the space, uh, we've been talking about reparations for, well, since the end of slavery. And since slavery didn't end, we've been talking about reparations since there was reparations to be talked about. But specifically, in the main um, atmosphere and environment, or at least in the past 50 years, we've been talking about reparations in a big way these past 10 years. And I think that most recently, in the past 5 years, reparations online has been a pretty big trend. And it's such a trend that some states don't have reparations compliance committees, KD. What's that about? Like, in the past 5 years, all the states should have a reparations compliance committee. It does not mean that they need to have a legislative body already ready to go, but it does mean that the niggas in the state understand that they're owed a debt, and they've started talking about it and talking about how they're going to get to the money, right? Because if they're not having those conversations, then how do they get paid? Do they just wait for somebody else to do the work? We gotta stop being people like that. You can't be a people who waits for someone to give you what's owed to you. Because 9 times out of 10, not only are they not going to give you what's owed, but they're definitely going to shortchange you. They might give you something, but it's not going to be what you need. It'll be Black Lives Matter painted on the ground. It'll be Harriet Tubman on some sort of money. It will be the first black so and so. Who gives a fuck about any of those things? Why can't they cut the check? They cut the check for everybody else. But no, when it comes to us, we got to get all stupid and confused about what's owed and who it's owed to, and we know that they know who we are, but we're still having conversations about who we are, and other people are still trying to be in the mix. That only happens because people are not having these conversations. So outside until further notice, I think that's necessary. Um, the pamphlets that we handed out were, I think, professionally done. If you're going to be outside, then you need to make sure that the material that you have with you is something that the people are going to want to read. It's going to be something that the people are not going to want to throw away right away. It's got to be eye-catching. It has to be useful. Don't just give people a bunch of words on a piece of paper and expect them to want to read about it. First of all, people's attention span is not that great. Second of all, most people don't like having junk, and another piece of paper is just some junk. It's likely to be thrown away. But when you're having these conversations with people as you're passing out the flyers, and you can kind of see in their eyes if they're engaged or not engaged, maybe you have a conversation that gets them thinking. Our brother Bear Arms, he said yesterday to somebody, one of the students we were passing, he said, um, "Peace, brother. Would you work for free?" And and the guy kind of like looked at him like, "No, no, I wouldn't work for free." And Bear Arms was like, "Well, neither would your ancestors. We're owed reparations." And I just love that. because it was like, you know, the boy, he wasn't really paying any attention to what we were doing. But that question jarred him. Would you work for free? Nobody would work for free. Absolutely nobody is out here trying to work for free. So once we've established that you wouldn't work for free, well, why do you think that we're supposed to have allowed this to have happened for so long? Our ancestors worked for free, and that's because we haven't made them pay the debt back. We haven't made them pay the debt back because they're doing everything else. They're paying Ukraine. They are allowing illegals in. All of these freeloaders. Shout out to Dr. Anderson, who had a space yesterday. He talked about freeloaders. The first freeloaders were, well, outside of the colonizers, would be those people who landed in Ellis Island. These poor, wretched white people who come from nothing but came over here and got everything. The American dream only exists because they never paid what was owed to us. There would be no American dream for these other people if our debt was paid in full at the beginning. There would be a whole other system going on over here. And if I'm wrong, then I guess you can have an opportunity to let me know. But I don't think I'm wrong. And none of y'all are about to come up here and say that I am wrong. So on the flyer that we passed out, did I say Katie did these? Katie did these flyers, and I think that they're pretty good. They have information on there for contact, because people are going to want to know who you are and how they can get more information. We invited them to come to the next task force meeting, which is October 18th in the state capital of Richmond. Um, some people seem like they were interested, some people not so much. I wonder if y'all can guess what group of people you thought were more engaged. Would it have been the old alumni who showed up for the game, or would it have been the younger students who, are into their technology? What group of people that we happened across yesterday were more receiving of our mission of reparations? My bad about that. But anyway, these flyers, Katie did the flyers. And if they have good eye-catching information, then they are less likely to be tossed. And I think that that is necessary when you're passing out information. I got distracted because the kids came downstairs. What was I saying? I was saying, oh, what group of people do y'all think were more engaged? Do you think it were the young students who are into their technology? Because we saw that a lot of phones buried in heads. I'm sorry, heads buried in phones. A lot of people walking with their head down on their phone with their AirPods in, not giving a care to what is going on in the world. That happened. And we saw a lot of old people, a lot of old alumni, people who were there for the rival game. As I said, they were playing North Carolina A&T. That is a rival school. There was, some competitive football spirit in the air. And we encountered a few of them as well. I wonder if y'all can guess which group of people were more receptive. Or maybe they were the same amount of receptive. I don't know. If you were at the pull up organized pamphlet passing out event yesterday, please come up to the stage and let the people know of your experience. Um, I think that we're always going to have people who said, well, there wasn't a lot of people with y'all, or, you didn't make enough noise. But sometimes, again, I think the information sharing aspect is good, is necessary. It's a start, because once more people know about what's going on, now you can have more numbers in the mass um, I completely lost the word. When you want to protest in mass. So definitely you can't do that when only two people know what's going on. But when 200 people know what's going on and they're all as angry because they know that a debt is owed, well, now you've got a little army. And you can do stuff with that army. So shout out to the people who were interested in what we had to tell them yesterday, and shout out to the people who had no idea but learned a thing or two yesterday. We ran into a lot of people who didn't know but wanted to know more, and that was on both sides of things, whether they were young or old. We were friendly in sharing the information and making sure that they knew who it's for. A big thing for me yesterday was the fact that the people who weren't from Virginia, they were so quick to say, well, I'm not from Virginia. And man, if that's not one of the reasons why we're losing as a people right now, everybody is so focused on themselves and not on the big picture. But then, you do have to mind your state. But to that point, does North Carolina have a reparations task force? I don't know. I'm not in North Carolina, but I guess I should know. I need to do better. So I'm going to do better. But to you guys, maybe you're in North Carolina. Do you know if y'all have a reparations task force? And if you don't, why haven't you started one yet? You need to start organizing people. But maybe you are organized and I just am ignorant. I don't know all the information. I don't act as an authority. I'm just Eve. But I do have thoughts and I do have feelings. And for what it's worth, every single person that we talked to who was from North Carolina at that game was very much not worried about what's going on in Virginia. And I think that that's a problem. And breaking news to another point that I made earlier in the space, maybe we don't call the ambulance. I'm sorry, maybe we don't call the fire department because they are basically police and can also enforce laws that have traumatized us as well. So I guess the goal is for us to be reliant on ourselves. And in the event of an emergency, hopefully you have somebody thorough around you and you can lean on them if you're unable to lean on yourself. But if nobody has any thoughts or wants to share any additional thoughts, I'm going to close out the space with the 6 points that we have on our flyer that we passed out. These are points that you can all use because they are necessary in our conversation about reparations. Oh, did I tell you we got kicked off campus? I think I did. Look, only because Katie's in the room right now, so I'll repeat it. We only got kicked off campus when Katie started playing Kamala telling everybody that she's not going to do anything specific for Black people. And when we get that footage, I cannot wait to show you because the police officers, can you guess? Can you guess what race they were? Just guess. Anybody? Okay, you know it. You know that there was some niggas. And anyway, these niggas acted like they just couldn't do anything but kick us off campus, and they don't know why, and they don't want to ask no questions, and they don't ask questions. They just comply. And I was so sad about it. But if they are foundational, they are also owed, and maybe this is why they're so confused. They need reparations too. So we shared the information with them as well as we were being kicked off of the campus. But the 6 points for lineage-based reparations: delineation, immigration, an anti-Black hate crime bill, protection from CPS for Black American children, and to gatekeep our culture. If you can keep those 6 things on the forefront of your mind, then when we have conversations about what is owed to us, and you start with that they need to cut the check because resources are how we get everything else that's owed to us, then, I think we'll be in a better situation. We can stop having the conversation that it won't happen in our lifetime. That can stop now. Reparations is happening in our lifetime, and we can get there fast or we can get there faster. Foundational Black America first.